What's up, everybody? Welcome to the High Level Husband Podcast. I'm Tommy McAllister, and today I'm going to do a little bit different of a podcast. I was actually recording this for some other people in my life, and I said, you know what? Let me just do this as a podcast, and I've never done this on here before. But as you guys know, I run a ministry called High Level Husband. My podcast is just one aspect of that, but the main aspect of it is I run a coaching company called High Level Husband that coaches men all over the world to having phenomenal marriages. But it starts with being phenomenal in yourself from a phenomenal relationship with God. And so I'm actually going to break down the process that we take men through on that, like the overview of it all. Obviously, I can't teach you everything like on this in a 30-minute podcast on how to do all of that and whatnot. But I'm going to give you the overview, and it's going to be an eye-opening for you in a lot of different aspects of how to actually do it and why counselors and therapists and churches and all the other aspects do it wrong. This program that I run right here is 100% of God and to the fullest. He has the scripture where Paul said, where God tells Paul, for his grace is sufficient, for his power is made perfect in weakness, is 100% my life, because 5 years ago, I was basically a drug dealer, and now I'm doing this, and he could have never done it. I could have never done this without God's power and my brokenness and my weakness. And so, guys, let's dive into this. I'm going to break down why a marriage is where it's at and how do we actually get there in our process that we do this. So most men and families are like a beat up car, worn down from years of wear and tear, running hard with no direction, and racking up miles from going nowhere, just spinning their wheels. They're exhausted, they're running on fumes, and they need an overhaul. Our program resets you back to the factory stock, breaks down like this car of you. I'm using this analogy of you, like totally rebuilding you to stock, wiping everything clean, aligned, and focused. Once we get you back to stock, like this reset, then we build you into a high performance, purpose driven machine, refined, souped up, and unstoppable. By the time you leave, you're not just rebuilt, you're transformed. And your family, they finally know who's truly behind the wheel and where you're taking them. I want to read that last little part again. They finally know who's truly behind the wheel and where you're taking them. Guys, so many men say my wife will not follow me. She has no idea where you're taking them, and she doesn't trust you. Also, that's because you're exhausted, you're wore out, you're beat down, you're fatigued, you're hitting midlife crisis, you don't know where you're going, you're lost on the purpose of life, and you're unfulfilled. Because of that, we need to reset all the things that got you to that spot to build you back up to not just stock, but to a souped up sports car, heading in the right direction, full throttle, and knowing exactly where you're headed. And your wife will feel safe to get in the car with you, trust it, laugh, and enjoy the ride instead of wanting to go in a different direction and you going in a different direction. Imagine that. Have you ever actually just been in your actual car with your wife and she's like, turn here. And you're like, no, I'm going to go this way. It's faster to go this way. No, I'm going this way. That's how most marriages are, unfortunately. And so, guys, I'm going to give you just a quick little overview of this. Our whole program is based off biblical principles, because you can either do it God's way or the wrong way. There is no other in between. There is no gray area. God's way or the devil's way. The wrong way is the devil's way. So that's why I work with Christian men, because I'm going to speak the truth of God. Now, you can take biblical principles if you're not a believer, and you can use them benefit for your life. Most secular knowledge out there is just biblical principles. They just don't give credit to God. So our program is based off of three things, and it's actually the purpose of life: love God, love others, and create disciples of all nations. Most people have no idea what the purpose of life is. They think it's to be a good man, raise good kids, save money for security, and get experiences along the way, and save up for retirement and retire, and you give in your life to Christ and get to heaven. That's not the purpose of life. Yes, getting to heaven is a massive part of that, right? But that's not the purpose of life. Those are branches on the tree. Men don't even know what the purpose of life is. That's why they can't lead their family there. That's why they're falling short, is because they're getting experiences and it's just a hole in a cup that the water keeps coming out. They're raising good kids, but now those kids are falling into the same patterns of them of just working and not even and trying to get experiences and not ever being fulfilled. So our program is both based on what Jesus said is the first two main commandments in the whole Bible. The number one commandment is Mark 12:30. He said that's the first and most important commandment. And the second most important commandment is Mark 12:31. So I'm going to touch on those, then I'm going to touch on the last segment of this. Mark 12:30 is this: to love God with all of your heart, all of your soul, all of your mind, and all of your strength. Key word is all. Love God with all of that. So that's your full being, right? Like you giving everything to God. All of your strength is your body, physical performance, making sure your body's on point so you can actually perform for God. And it's not a detriment. It's actually a performance machine for God. So making sure your strength's on point, making sure your mind, what you're inputting into your mind is good and not bad. So your mind is actually a performance machine and has this wisdom so you can love on God's people and love God the right ways, right? So getting your mind in that spot, right? The next is your soul, which is your authenticity that God's created you uniquely. He says you're chosen before you, he knew you before you were in the womb, and you're chosen for a specific mission. Being able to authentically live that out and not caring what anybody else thinks about you, including your wife. And lastly is your heart. What's your heart? It's your feelings and your emotions. And are those being controlled and given to God, or are your circumstances of this world, from COVID to wars to finances to if your wife's sleeping with you and all these things, are they controlling your emotions? Or is it all of your heart controlling your emotions to giving it to God? So when you give all of that, most people, it's not all, partially they've done that for God. But majority of their stuff is for this world. And it's not your fault. Nobody's taught you that, because we're just living in a fallen world, and it's just in all we're doing is soaking it up all day long. So that's why he says the first commandment, and it's not a suggestion, it's a commandment. The number one commandment, not a suggestion, commandment, do that. Second is Mark 12:31, to love your neighbor as yourself. You cannot love your neighbor. Who's your neighbor? Your kids, your wife, your employees, your coworkers, whoever that may be, if you do not love yourself. The key part of that is as you love yourself. So if you're not thriving, if you're just not joyful, if you're just not killing it every day, not exhausted, not stressed, not full of anxiety, not having any of that, you will show up with so much joy to be able to then love on them even more. Now, I know you love your wife and I know you love your kids, but you have so much more you can give them when you have this aspect of it. But you only get that by all of that to God. And our program teaches you how to do all of these things. Well, then the last thing is the whole purpose of life is to create disciples of all nations. The very first command in Genesis and the very last command that Jesus gives on the earth was to multiply. Multiply. Be fruitful and multiply. Multiply, create disciples of all nations. Being fruitful and multiplying isn't just having kids. Being fruitful and multiplying is multiplying your character, the fruit, because Jesus says, you'll know my people by their fruit. Do you have fruit in your life? That's why nobody wants to become Christians anymore. Nobody knows your fruit. So do you have that fruit? It's your character: love, joy, peace, patience, gentleness, kindness, self-control, the fruits of the Spirit, right? And so that's your character. And then multiply, go create disciples. So the whole purpose of life is to multiply. Most people think that marriage or ourselves, once we get in the 40s, well, it's just naturally gain weight. Well, naturally intimacy dies off. Well, we're just over the honeymoon phase. No. Multiply, get better, bigger, better, health-wise, spiritually wise, mentally wise, authentic wise, emotionally wise, sex-wise. All of that should get better and better as you get older. The world goes the other way. That's why midlife crisis happen. And that's why they say when you're 40, you're over the hill. That's why people are stuck in going the other direction, is because they're not multiplying, because they don't actually know how to actually do these things. So then you create disciples by being somebody who's just so authentically themselves because they have God, right? So that's why our program is based off those three things. Now that's the overview, is getting you to be able to do that. Then when you walk in the house, your wife will be fully submitted and be like, who is this man? That's my husband. I can't believe this is my husband. I'm so stoked. But you got to be able to be that for her to become that. Most people point the finger and say, well, she's not doing this. She's not doing that. I just did a podcast on that. 1 Corinthians 10:10 says, and do not be like those who complained for they were led to death by the destroying angel because they complain. My wife, my wife. This is about you. It says all of your heart, all of your soul, all of your mind, all of your strength. It doesn't say all your wives. It says you. And if you're complaining about your wife, you're not there with the all aspects yet. I promise you that. I promise you that. That's how when Jesus says to love your wife like Christ, where the Bible says to love your wife like Christ loves the church. He's able to love the church because his heart is at that aspect. Most men's heart are not that aspect, so they can't actually love their wife like Christ loved the church. Long-term, sustained, they can do it for a week or two. That's why the love languages don't work, because you can only do it for a few weeks because it will die off because your heart's not actually able to do those things. So how do we do that in this program? Multiple ways. It's a 3-step process. 3-phase process. The first phase is reset. The next phase is attraction. And the next phase is connection. Where most counselors get this wrong is they try to go to connection first. Oh, well, we need to talk about your problems and you guys need to go on more date nights. Sweet. How's that going to work out for the 300-pound man that's overworked and stressed and has past trauma and hates his life? That ain't going to work out at date night, and having somebody do your love language ain't going to fix that. Because your wife can sleep with you all you want and it will not fix it. Just the same way people think becoming a millionaire will fix their life. No, it won't. When you fix the internal things, the external things take care of themselves, but the external things will never fix the internal things. So we need to reset everything in your life, get you down to bare bones stock, the car analogy, getting you there to then rebuild back up. Because Hebrews 12:1 says this, let us throw off everything that hinders and the sin that so easily entangles. So we need to remove everything. Let us throw off everything. Keyword is everything. Not just well, the world says that's okay. Everybody argues. Everybody watches porn. Everybody drinks alcohol. Everybody cusses. Everybody has conflict. Everybody has this. No. Do you want to be like everybody, or do you want to be the one of one who God created you and knew you before you were in the womb? Different. Stand out. Set apart, fearfully and wonderfully made, as the Bible says, or you want to be just like everybody else. Let us throw off everything that hinders and the sin that so easily entangles. So it's everything and sin. So it doesn't just say sin you're masturbating and you're getting drunk and you're yelling at people or whatever all your sin might be. It says everything that hinders. So this is the reset phase for us. We're going to factory reset your life. And so many people say, wow, that stuff's not bothering me. How's that working out for you? Well, it's because of my wife, or it's because of this. No, you need to factory reset, because nobody was born a narcissist. Nobody was born angry. Nobody was born an addict. Nobody was born these ways. You get to those spots because life stuck to you. The trauma, the hurts, self-inflicted and not self-inflicted ones. And because of that, you're now this person, just the way when you drove that car off the lot and it was awesome. Then maybe it started raining and it got dirty. Then maybe you got a little car next to you slammed his door into you and you got a little dent. Then maybe you accidentally backed into something. Now your tread on your tires is getting worn out. Maybe you need to change the oil. Now that's you're racking up all these miles, and then you've spilled your coffee inside the car. It's it's going to get those things. It's going to get beat down. It no longer looks as good as it did in the factory, but no longer will run as good as it did on the factory after you've just put all these miles on it. That's life. It sticks to you. But we need to remove everything that hinders us from being who God's called us to be able to have our heart at all in Mark 12:30. So that's when people say, oh, well, that doesn't make sense. Do it. We're going to reorder your life in this. Most people, their life's out of order. The carts first and all those other aspects. We need to get your life in order of how it actually is supposed to go. God's a God of order. The Bible is just one template after another. Most people are taking those templates and jumbling them up and thinking and wondering why it's not working. You have to build a car in a specific aspect if it's in the factory, right? Same thing in life. You have to have your life in this specific order. We're going to teach you that order of how to actually do it. God, self, marriage, kids, business. And when we do that through this program of the reset, attraction, and connection phase, when God's number one, when self is, I'm talking about love yourself as that, spiritually, mentally, and physically on point, by the time you come to your marriage, a third, your cup is overflowing, pouring out onto them, onto your marriage, so you're bringing a full cup instead of an empty cup, then she, because marriage is a direct reflection of us, she will then eventually do that same thing as well. So you have two full cups that then overflow onto the kids. And then the kids see what is caught is taught. So then they repeat that process rather than anything else. And then by the time you get to business, you're slaying it. You're so creative. You're free. You don't need the money. You don't need the appreciation. You don't need any of that, because life is God's killing it, self's killing it, marriage killing it, kids are killing it. And then by the time you get to business, it's not. But most men put business first and most wives put kids first, and ask how that's working out. Kids are struggling in so many ways because they're not actually seeing an amazing marriage. And is that business actually doing anything? Oh, I'm just trying to buy all these things for my family to make them feel happy. And none of that actually does, because what they actually want is the best authentic version of you as a spiritual and emotional leader for their family. And they actually want your time. That's providing for your family, not financially. It's a small part of it. So we set you back on that, right? We've got the order in place. We're removing distractions and vices, removing the hinders, as Hebrews 12:1 talks about, distractions and vices from your life that are keeping you overwhelmed, stressed, and exhausted. Removing those emotional needs that are idols in your life. And yes, for a lot of you, that is your wife. And that's, forgive my French, but that's your wife's vagina in a lot of ways. When it's not a need, you get more of it than you actually ever wanted anyways. Removing those idols and removing unforgiveness and bringing dark to light. And when you do that, you're healed. That's how we get you where you can actually give God your all. Because God can't bless people when they're living in their muck. Let us throw off everything that hinders in the sin that so easily entangles. Why? Because that sin, the muck and all of that, God can't bless you in that, because he would be showing you a template that actually works. And then you'd be saying, well, this works. Why would I stop? My wife's killing it with me. Finances are amazing. All these other things. So I don't need to go seek God. This is me. No, God has to squeeze you, prune you, do those things, discipline you, get your life in order. So it's actually those things. And because of that, it's his way. So then it's replicable for other people to be able to do that same exact thing. But this world's going to tell you what you need to do for yourself. But do you, dude? Do what makes you happy. No. By doing this will make you more joy and peace than you've ever had in your life. Happiness comes and goes. But joy and peace can be there no matter whether your house is in a tornado and you have cancer, or you're in a prison cell, or you're on the beach in Hawaii. That could stay there. That's what it's about. So we're going to reset all of that stuff for you. Now, we got all the distractions out of the way. Now we can build you back up. So this is the attraction phase. The reset will move the things blocking you from the three main things that you need that are going to be attractive for your wife and be attractive for you and yourself. So you're confident and you actually love yourself. Oh, I love myself. I promise you, I've done this long enough. I've worked with some of the most successful people in the world. Most men don't love themselves, and most men don't let God love on them. That's just the truth. So what are these three main things? Identity, your authenticity, and your masculinity. We need to restore and grow back up. So you actually feel like the masculine man God created you to be, whereas the woke culture right now is trying to tell you to not. It's toxic. That's not the devil. God's got you a masculine man for a reason. We're made in his image and likeness. The woman was made from our rib. So identity is our identity in Christ. Understand who you are in Christ. Understand you're chosen, that you knew you before you're in the womb, that the womb, you're chosen, you have a purpose, the specific reason why he has you there on this earth at this day and time and day and age and time. So we'll get your identity back. We get you your authenticity, because most men are not authentic. They're not vulnerable. They don't share their things with other men. They're unashamed to share these things. So they're wondering what other people think about themselves. They have the fear of man. What's other people think about me? They don't share the things with their wife because they're wondering what she's going to think about you, or you think you're trying to protect her from the things that you're actually feeling, when you're actually separating the connection from that and her actually being able to love you and understand and know you. And then your masculinity is the thing that allows you to be the leader, to serve your wife and not please your wife. But when you serve your wife, she actually gets pleased. Most men just don't want to rock the boat. They want to please their wife. And so they do the things that aren't actually going to lead the family in the right direction. It's momentary dopamine hits for the family that keeps the peace, but it doesn't actually bring the long-term growth for them to keep growing forever and ever and ever and getting better and better and better. It's actually just a momentary thing that's going to destroy later on. It's like if you're like, dude, I'm going to eat a pizza right now. Yeah, if you keep eating pizzas every day just to satisfy that little itch, you're not going to get better. That's what people do when they're not being a masculine leader, proactive, transparent, vulnerable, real. We're going to be set. They're going to have all these things come back in attraction in this aspect of it. Because men need 4 things to be able to do this, right? When you have your identity in the deep relationship with God, the all that we're talking about, heart, soul, mind, and strength, guess what? That gives you permission to be authentically yourself, where you don't care what anybody else thinks about you because you're enough in God. And if because you're enough in God, you're enough in yourself now because you removed those things that were hindering you from being enough in yourself, those vices, distractions, the overwhelms, exhausted. Now you actually can start being yourself and attracted into that aspect of things. So now you're authentic. When you're authentic, you don't care what anybody else thinks. And so you can just be vulnerable. Where the Bible talks about you're healed by the blood of the Lamb and the word of your testimony. So now you're healing yourself and you're sharing with other people because your testimony is here for the saving of many lives. To use it for other people, the Bible's full of nothing but testimonies. What if they didn't share those things? You wouldn't be able to learn from them. Well, that's a part of creating disciples. So now you got the deep relationship with God, the all. You're authentic and vulnerable. And because of that, you now love yourself. You can love on others. What does that then next lead to? Connection. And you know what connection is? Love. Gives you everything we all want. Love. Because you love yourself. You're allowing God to love you. And your wife will see you for who you are. Authentically you. But you don't need her to love you. You desire her, you cherish her, you love her, but you don't need her to love you because you're enough of God and enough of yourself. And because of that, there's no pressure and there's no expectations. And she'll 100% authentically know you. I've done this long enough. 99% of couples do not really know each other. I've done this long enough. And that's just the truth. But when you're authentic and real, it gives you that connection, and that connection gets to that love. 1 Corinthians is in this of the man being the man of not rocking the boat. I mean, of being willing to rock the boat, willing to be proactive, willing to lead in these ways. But I want you to realize that the head, 1 Corinthians 11:3, my bad. But I want you to realize that the head of every man is Christ, and the head of every woman is man, and the head of Christ is God. Your role is to lead when it's hard and it's not easy. You got to be willing to rock the boat. I've seen this when men finally stand their ground in this ways and are able to do it because of the reset. If you do it without the reset, you won't be able to do this. I promise you that. If your heart's not all on all of those 4 things, heart, soul, mind, and strength, you won't be able to be able to do it long term because you'll be still broken. You'll still have the distractions and all those things. That's why the reset phase is so important. But when she knows that you're actually following God and it's all there, you will stand firm and she'll be able to lean against you, which allows her to actually get into her feminine. But the culture is now raising up women who say, you be man, you raise the family. We're all equal. We're doing these things. Women are just 100% amazing as we are. They have their roles. We have our roles, and the world switched them around. This will allow her to authentically be herself in those things in her feminine role, and that will bring her peace and joy. But you have to be a rock, and you have to stand firm because you're standing firm in God with all aspects. And because of that, it will rock the boat in the beginning. But it will be the thing that gets it there. I promise you. Do it without the reset phase, and this won't work. There will be some pushback in the beginning because nobody wants to be having the foot down type thing, and there's a right way to do it. We teach you that. But you do it the right way. When you've reset, now you've become this attractive man, and the steps we lead you to, so it's not just like telling you these things, it's actually teaching you so you actually have this stuff, know how to do it, become this attractive man, have all those aspects of all of that, how to actually proactively, transparently, vulnerability, be able to do all of these things, and boom, be the masculine man, be the identity in Christ, be authentic. We teach you how to do all of that. And you can do that. Boom. Now you're ready for connection. Now you can do that. This is where counselors and therapists get it wrong, and even church retreats. It's like they're trying to just bring pieces together, and it's like trying to have 2 magnets and trying to put them together, but they're so broken, so lost that your hands are moving super fast, you can't put them together. But once you have the reset and attraction phase, you can just bring the magnets together and let them connect. Most people have no idea that's what you have to do. That's why Romans 12:2 says, do not conform to the patterns of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. We need to renew you to have you actually be able to connect. This is the process to get you there. This is why this is the gold standard program, because it's of God. And this is me, why he knew me in the womb and formed me for this. So I could bring this message to marriages that are all being destroyed today. We all know that. This is not Tommy. This isn't for the glory of Tommy. How many times do you say this is for God, for God, for God, for God? This is God. This is my weakness and him speaking through me. So now in the connection phase, you cannot connect with somebody without the first two phases. Now we've softened the beachhead. In the first two phases, it's like, before they went in on D-Day, they softened the beachhead. Bomb, 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 bomb. And then you go in. That's what we're doing. We're softening. We're breaking up. We're doing these things. And now we're ready for this connection phase where we actually connect you guys. So we lead you through systems and processes of how to actually connect, how to actually know each other. And now you're able to do that because you've got the deep relationship with God. And I promise you, so many guys have came in, oh yeah, God's number one in my life. No, you realize that you're just barely scratching the surface. You're actually at 1 or 2%, because only 64% of Americans are Christians right now, and only 4% of them actually follow God. And I tell you what, I've yet to meet somebody that's actually in the 4% that's coming to the program. Because if you're in the 4%, your marriage ain't in a bad spot. I promise you that. Lower the ego and understand that you're actually missing the mark in those areas. And I could explain that in a whole other aspect of things, but I'd be way too long. So now we're going to connect you the right ways. We're going to teach you those things, how to actually connect, how to actually know your spouse deeply. And then now that's going to be the bond that brings you together. We can get your guys' purpose dialed in for you of where you're actually heading, why you're on the same page, and why God puts you two together. Because most couples, the husband's pulling in one direction and the wife's pulling in another direction. So there's this constant tension. And because of that constant tension, the husband thinks the wife's not respecting me or admiring me or affirming me and doesn't see all the things that I'm actually doing for her. And the wife feels like she's not getting the time and attention or the love in her aspects either. And so there's this constant tug pulling those things in those areas. We're going to not have you pulling in the same different directions. We're going to have you pulling in the same direction. We're going to have you pulling in the exact same direction. I think they're Clydesdale's horses is what they are. By themselves, one horse on its own can pull 8,000 pounds. So if you have one horse pulling 8,000 pounds, how many would two pull together? You would naturally think it's 16. Well, it's actually 20,000 pounds. So now they're pulling 20,000 pounds together. That's for two Clydesdale horses that are not trained and don't know each other. They can still pull an extra 4,000 pounds together. So now it's 20,000, right? But if they're actually trained together, connected, it's 32,000 pounds. So they each can pull double what they can by themselves. So then now it's basically each pulling 16,000 pounds. This is proven facts. You can look it up. That's going to be you and your wife pulling in the same direction. Imagine how much more territory you're going to take in all aspects of life. Imagine now you're showing that to your kids so they have that same marriage that's pulling in those directions. Now you're using your testimonies to show that other people. So now we're advancing the kingdom. Well, Jesus says the gates of hell will not prevail against the church, right? It's happening a little bit, man. It's been back and forth. Well, do you think we're going to push back on offensive against the gates of hell when we're 32,000 pounds together? Or do you think it's better when we're pulling in separate directions? Oh, it's just better if you guys get divorced. It's better if you guys just do you. It's better if you guys just die off. No. This connection phase is going to have you guys pulling in the same direction. We're going to dial in your mission, your core values for your family, how to actually stay on purpose with all this so they know where you're leading them. Most men don't even know where they're leading them. Like I said, they think it's for retirement, raise good kids and experiences. Well, now that's run out. This only fills the cup for so long and it just keeps draining out. Now we're going to actually show you what the purpose of life is, how to actually do that, how to actually implement it, and how to keep it actually rolling in this last phase. And continually, because of that, now you're pulling in the same direction. You guys' conversations are better than they've ever been because you're pulling in the same thing. Your vision's locked in. Everything is together. Everything you talk about is just these things. And because of that, you get real intimacy. The spiritual intimacy, the emotional intimacy is far better than the physical intimacy. Me and my wife have amazing physical intimacy, but our spiritual and emotional intimacy is what fills me up better than anything. But because of that, I'm basically a billionaire in spiritual and emotional intimacy with my wife, that I can just basically have a debit card that I can buy whatever I want. And that debit card's the physical intimacy aspect of it, right? So I can tap into that account all I want from the spiritual and physical and withdraw all I want from the physical because of that. And all she wants from it as well, because we have unlimited. Well, most marriages don't have the spiritual and emotional intimacy, or they did, and it's just barely filling it up. And so they're overdrawing that account. Now it's overdrawn, so it feels exhausted, worn down, overwhelmed, fatigued, all of that. And so they're overdrawing their account. That's why the wife's not sleeping with you. That's why the wife's not doing those things with you. Her account is overdrawn in those areas. We're going to get you guys so much spiritual and emotional intimacy. It's going to fill you up way more than the most amazing sex in the world will. Believe me, you'll start having the most amazing sex in the world, and it still don't compare to the spiritual and emotional intimacy. Then you'll get them all. And you head in the right direction. So you're going to go from this broke down car that's beat up and wore out, trying to drive your family in a direction that you have no idea. The GPS is just constantly changing all over the place. You're fatigued, you're lost, you're overwhelmed, you're confused. And now your wife wants security, but you can't even tell her where you're heading. And so you're all above. Now you guys are arguing, and there's this power struggle and no connection. But now, because of this process, we're going to head you in the right direction. I'm telling you, this is the gold standard. I've never seen a program better than this. I'm not saying it because technically my face is on it. It's God's program, and every single person that works with me knows that. Do all of that, head in the right direction, slaying it, absolutely slaying it. And that's what creates disciples of all nations, because now you are killing it, your marriage is killing it, your kids are killing it, and because by the time all those things, you can just create disciples. Why? Because your life is a picture of possibility. Jesus says, you know my people by their fruit. You're the fruit to show it now. Now you can actually do it. Now people will want to become Christians because you actually have some fruit to see in your life. The joy on your face. Not this empty, worn out, exhausted, broke down, unfulfilled person. It's going to be work. It's not easy to do these things. This is a sanctification process. So worth it, though. Everything you want in life is on the other side of pain. If you want to be that elite high performance car that's driving your family in the right direction, that loves himself, but because he's so all for all those things for God, then this is for you. You know, on my podcast, I don't pitch or anything like that to say, if you want coaching, click the link. If not, just listen to the podcast. I hate business. I'll be real with you. I hate business. I just love doing this. I love pouring into people. This is my God-given talent. But if I don't have a business aspect of it, I don't get it to people. If you want the smoke, if you want to come into our program, let's go. Because you know how you become this, what develops you in those? You need three things, right? Like the purpose, which we're going to give it to you, the habits that develop you into this person, and community. In your community, need to have those same things. The purpose up top, all, and their habits that get them there, all, and the community of all those people, because we're the sum of the 5 closest people in our life. You hang out with 9 broke people, you become the 10th. You come out with 9 people who have broken marriages, you become the 10th. You hang out with 9 people who have phenomenal marriages, you become the 10th. You hang out with 9 rich people, you become the 10th. So when your community now is savages in this, that's the last aspect. So we're going to give you a community of it. You're going to have coaches in there like myself who are savages in these aspects, who've had their lives radically rocked by God, been through what you've been through, and then now have the marriages to match it. And then you're going to go through with other men at multiple different stages of this process who are just beginning, who are in the middle, and who are at the end, and the men who've been through it and are just still in the community or killing it. You have all the different aspects, but of men who understand we're here for the same reasons. We're going to give you that community. We're going to give you the habits, and we're going to show you how to absolutely do that and have your purpose. That's the Venn diagram that gets you who you need to become, and you become that, and your wife becomes that, because marriage is a direct reflection of you. If you want this, invest in yourself. Or you can stay the same and keep driving in the wrong direction. And it's what the Bible says, the blind leading the blind. And I'll just leave you with this. How's that working out for you? Because I know how it was working out for me. I knew how it was working out for all the other men that I've led. It sucks. It's terrible. If you are interested in this program, click the link below. Go through the process. Get on a call with our team and do something radical, because obedience is the accelerator for how fast God will move in your life. God bless you.